One of the things that distinguish man from the animals is the power of speech. While it is true that most animals and birds can utter cries which indicate emotion, anger, fear, affection, nevertheless, their range of sounds is very limited, so that they are not capable of expressing more complicated emotions. On the other hand, man can express a very wide range of ideas and emotions through speech. Words are only symbols to which special values and meanings have become attached by general agreement. The same object, consisting of printed pages and a cover, is called by a French speaker, livre, by an English speaker, book, and by a Hindi speaker, kitab. The object is the same in each case, but in each linguistic community a different word to describe it has been agreed upon. Other symbols may be used instead of linguistic ones. A red light is used to indicate danger. A policeman's upheld hand tells us to stop. A forefinger held to the lips warns us to be quiet, but these substitutes are fairly few in number, and therefore cannot be used, except in very limited circumstances. Nutrition, which depends on food, is also of utmost importance in the cure of disease. The primary cause of disease is a weakened organism, or lowered resistance in the body, arising from the adoption of a fully nutritional pattern. There is an elaborate healing mechanism within the body, but it can perform its functions only if it is abundantly supplied with all the essential nutritional factors. Human cell need at least 45 chemical components and element. Each of these 45 substances, called essential nutrients, must be present in an adequate diet. The nutrients include oxygen and water. The other 43 essential nutrients are classified into 5 groups: carbohydrates, fats, proteins, minerals, and vitamins. All 45 of these nutrients are vitally important, and they work together. Therefore, the absence of any may result in disease, eventually death.
The complex process inside a leaf takes energy from the sun and uses it to convert water and carbon dioxide into sugars. During this process, photosynthesis, plants convert light energy into chemical energy. All leaves carry out photosynthesis in basically the same way. First, the pores on the leaf's outer skin open up and take in molecules of carbon dioxide. Water absorbed by the roots is transported upward through the plant, and it enters the leaf through its stem. Carbon dioxide and water, these are the raw materials for photosynthesis. Once carbon dioxide and water are present, photosynthesis can begin. The chemical reactions of photosynthesis take place in two stages: the light-dependent reactions and the light-independent reactions. When sunlight shines on a leaf during the light-dependent stage, its energy is absorbed by molecules of chlorophyll, which you all know is the pigment giving a leaf its green color. The light energy absorbed by the chlorophyll is used to split the hydrogen and oxygen in the water. Then, during the light-independent reactions, hydrogen from the water combines with carbon dioxide and forms carbohydrates, including the sugar glucose, but also other molecules that are rich in food energy for the plant. In the process, excess oxygen is released to the outside air through the leaf's pores. Finally, the plant transports the products of photosynthesis. Microscopic veins in the leaf carry the food out through the stem and into the cells of the plant. This process continues all throughout the growing season, that is, as long as the leaves remain green.
In places where there's been serious community tensions, Brickenden's a good example of this. There were 250 reported incidents there in 2009, often to do with neighbours and arguments, but criminal activity too. And the police will tell you that if you leave residents to sort things out for themselves, the number of incidents rises. It doesn't fall. So the local council realised that they had to do something. So they went round to people's houses and met them and their neighbours and talked to everyone and got a general idea of what the local concerns were. If there were extended families involved, they looked at those particular families more closely and all the relatives and got some of the family intervention services to talk to them. And there were some very positive results. You can pick out the hotspots, the main areas for crime. But the hotspots don't tell you what causes the crime in the first place, and so don't address the issues. So this proactive, more direct approach by the council worked well. And this was followed up with other quite practical solutions like cleaning up the area, getting rid of debris in alleyways and just making the place somewhere more agreeable, more livable.
And the thinking was that it happened quite suddenly, that dinosaurs were superior, that there was something about them, that once they originated, they had such a advanced biology and advanced type of body that they spread all around the world, that they spread around almost like an infectious virus, that they outcompeted the other animals of the day way back in the Triassic period, the days of the supercontinent Pangaea. But we now know that's not the case. There have been so many new fossil discoveries over the last decade or so, fossils of the very first dinosaurs, the animals living with the first dinosaurs.
If you're, as a patient, approaching the clinic, you're visiting with your doctor, you've had, a specific set of lab tests, and you're wondering, do you have a particular diagnosis or not? Are you going to respond to a drug in poorly or not? Or is this going to be have a secondary effect because of some other comorbidity you have? Now, what's possible is that you can look at data from millions of patients who came before you and watch what happened to them over time in response to similar therapies that were given, or to observe what was done to them and how they reacted to figure out exactly what is the right thing to do for you.
People were so afraid of using federal funds to sponsor the kind of research that a certain subset of the population would find objectionable. The government basically abrogated all responsibility in IVF research. They basically said, we're not going to use federal funds to support any research involving human embryos and fetuses. So what resulted from that was that IVF still continued to be investigated, but it became kind of a cowboy science. It was something that was funded by private people who were funding, just sort of the marketplace of fertility clinics, and there was no regulation. If there had been federal funds for research grants, then there would have been certain restrictions on federal funding, and also would have been an opportunity for the scientists to actually talk to each other. When people get NIH grants, they often have conferences and they have, some sort of public forum in which they describe some of the things they've been learning. But this put everything sort of under the radar and back into the private marketplace, which was not necessarily good for this kind of research.
Today's our first class, so I'd like to begin with some important definitions. We're going to use these terms all semester, so pay close attention. To begin with, chemistry is basically the study of matter. Matter is everything that makes up the universe. In this class, we're going to study the various elements and how they interact with one another. Sometimes they unite. When two or more elements unite, we call them compounds. Now, the study of chemical compounds is divided into two main branches of chemistry: organic chemistry and inorganic chemistry. Organic chemistry is the study of compounds that contain the element carbon. This basically covers, it covers all living things. Carbon is an element all living organisms have in common. As for inorganic chemistry, it's the study of non-carbon-based compounds. There are 5 differences between organic and inorganic compounds. Listen carefully to these. First, there are more than 10 million carbon compounds. That's 10 times the number of inorganic compounds.
Why are there so many carbon compounds?
Mostly because carbon bonds easily with other elements. It can also form complex groups. Got it? Okay, second, organic compounds melt and boil at lower temperatures than inorganic compounds. Third, organic compounds don't dissolve in water as easily as inorganic compounds. Fourth, organic compounds catch fire more easily than inorganic compounds. However, inorganic compounds conduct heat and electricity more easily. Finally, organic compound reactions take place at slower rates than do inorganic compound reactions. People, animals, plants, and fungi all get diseases. Pathogens cause them. Pathogens are things such as bacteria and viruses. They enter living things and cause them to get sick and sometimes to die. But living things have defenses against pathogens. These defenses are found in their immune systems. There are 2 types of immune systems, innate and adaptive. First, let's examine the innate immune system. An innate immune system in a living thing is always active. It's an organism's first line of defense against diseases. Let's think about humans, shall we? The skin is our first defense. How? Well, it prevents many things from entering the body. Also, the mucus in the nose prevents airborne foreign bodies, many of which are harmful, from entering the body. What else? There are defenses in the body as well. For instance, both the stomach and intestines produce acids. Some of them are able to remove pathogens from the food we eat. There's another important defense inside the body. These are white blood cells. When pathogens enter the body, white blood cells move to fight them. It's like they're soldiers fighting an invading army. The white blood cells go where the pathogens are. They attack the pathogens and try to remove them from the body. As you can guess, they're extremely useful. Now, how about some innate systems in other animals and plants? Let me give you some specific examples of them.
We all know that journalists often make things sound worse than they are, but they aren't the only ones. It seems that scientists sometimes do it too. In the past, scientists have claimed that the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, that's the area in the Pacific Ocean where plastic waste has collected together to create one kind of big garbage island. Anyway, they have claimed that this area of garbage is twice the size of the state of Texas, or 20 times the size of England. Some scientists even said that there's more plastic in that ocean than plankton. That's the tiny animals and plants that fish eat. But a new report shows that while there is a very serious problem for the environment, it's not as great as many scientists have said. The research showed that the garbage covers an area that's much smaller than Texas. And while plastic can harm some sea life, it actually feeds other tiny living creatures. For this reason, the report concludes that we shouldn't try to remove the plastic, but should focus on stopping more garbage from entering the ocean so it doesn't get worse in the future.
In my opinion, Pocahontas was a spy for the colonists. Yes, she served as a mediator between the British colonists and the Native Americans, but she was more of a spy. As you know, she even provided vital food supplies to the colonists. However, she didn't think of herself as a spy, and the colonists didn't trust her much despite her help. In a way, we could say she was a sad spy. Unfortunately, a war broke out between the Powhatans and the colonists. The colonists captured her and brought her to Jamestown. While she was in Jamestown as a hostage, she freely converted to Christianity and married John Rolfe. As we all know, this marriage brought the war to its end. What do you think? Was she a mediator or a spy? I believe she was a spy who played a role as a mediator.
Okay, class, today I'm going to tell you about one of Picasso's greatest masterpieces, Guernica. As you know, Guernica is also the name of a Basque town. In order to understand this picture, we need to go over some of the historical background of this town. The Basque town is a city located in northern Spain. During the Spanish Civil War, the German Air Force bombed the city. It was a massive aerial bombardment of a civilian population. It happened since the Nazis were helping Spain's dictator Francisco Franco. Hundreds of civilians were killed in the raid. It shocked the world, and this prompted Picasso to begin painting. He completed it in less than 2 months and hung it in the Spanish Pavilion at the Paris International Exposition of 1937. The painting became a timely and predictive vision of the Second World War. There is a complexity of symbolism in the painting. It does not portray the event directly. Instead, Picasso used imagery such as suffering people, animals, and buildings wrenched by the violence. It certainly shows the chaos of carpet bombing. We can feel the inhumanity, brutality, and hopelessness of war from it. Picasso really expressed his outrage very well with this monumental painting. People say Guernica is the last great historical painting. It is now recognized as an international icon for peace. You can also see a tapestry copy of it displayed on the wall of the United Nations building in New York City. It is often described as the most important work of art in the 20th century, but its meaning is still beyond the understanding even of some of the most well-known scholars.
Parents and other adults with whom children have close contact have a powerful influence on children's food preferences. Children are very sensitive to the reactions of those around them, and if they see others enjoying a particular food, they will be inclined more favourably towards that food. Thus, if parents want to persuade their children to eat more vegetables, then rather than simply telling them what to eat, it's more effective to demonstrate that they themselves
Initially, when Lewis turned to writing children's books, his publisher and some of his friends tried to dissuade him. They thought it would hurt his reputation as a writer of serious works. Tolkien in particular criticized Lewis' first Narnia book, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. He thought that there were too many elements that clashed. A Father Christmas and an evil witch talking to animals and children. Thankfully, Lewis didn't listen to any of them. Following the publication of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe in 1950, Lewis quickly wrote 6 more Narnia books, publishing the final one, The Last Battle, in 1956. Although they were not well received at first by critics and reviewers, the books gained in popularity through word of mouth. The Narnia books have since sold more than 100 million copies and are among the
Autophagy is a cellular process which allows orderly degradation and recycling of dysfunctional cellular components. In 1963, Belgian biochemist Christian de Duve coined the term autophagy, which is derived from Greek word autophagus, means self-sustaining. Based on the discovery of autophagy-related genes in yeast in the 1990s, Japanese researcher Yoshinori Osumi has developed regulation of autophagy, which enable him to win 2016 Nobel Prize in Medicine in 2016. By rapidly providing fuel to building blocks of cell autophagy, can renew cellular components and stem starvation and other types of stress. Autophagy can ward off defeated intracellular viruses and bacteria during infection.
Now, scientists have engineered yeast that can also make one of the most powerful analgesics, morphine. Their work is in the journal Nature Chemical Biology. Opiates like morphine and codeine are essential for treating severe pain. But making these meds isn't easy. All are derived from opium poppies, and tens to hundreds of thousands of tons are needed to meet global needs. The crops can also be affected by climate, disease, and even political turmoil in the countries where the plants are grown, which further limits commercial production.
Agenda items should be submitted by the end of the day. Weather forecasts will have a big change in the next century. You will be tested by continuous assessments and examinations. The electronic buses have an impact on air pollution. We are on track for 1 billion tobacco-related deaths this century. Poverty exists everywhere, but the situation is improved.